Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ray Tennyson, and I'm the president of Terravita Golf Club. I'm pleased today to introduce to you Phil Smith. Phil is a highly regarded golf course architect who was contracted in 2017 to prepare a master plan for our golf course. Phil has over 25 years of experience designing and renovating golf courses for Jack Nicklaus, Tom Weiskopf, and is now the principal of his own independent golf course design company. Phil submitted his design for Terravita to our Greens Committee in May and has been working collaboratively with the Greens Committee since that time to produce a renovation plan to present to the membership. We are very pleased with his vision and hope this will be a good foundation for setting how we move forward. Phil will be giving you an overview of the plan, and renderings will be posted at the club for your review. Moving forward, what we determined to do to bring this plan to fruition is not the subject of today's presentation from Phil. In the near future, we will be holding forums with members both in person and via Zoom video over the next few months. These forums are designed to share with you, the members, what we, the board, have learned over the past several months, the pros and cons, and the financial implications of the possible implementation of this plan. Once we have shared with you what we have learned and you have a chance to digest its contents, we will want to hear from you. The decision on how or if we proceed will be our collective decision as the members and the owners of the golf club. My hope is that we will reach a healthy consensus and have the support of a vast majority of the members. I think you will enjoy and be impressed with what Phil is proposing for our golf course, and I hope that you will make every effort to attend one of the member forums and learn more. Thank you very much.
My name is Phil Smith. I'm the architect that was brought in to prepare the master plan for Terravita Country Club. Today I'd like to introduce myself to you, give you a background of where I came from and what my experience is, and then talk to you a little bit about this process. What is a master plan? How do we prepare a master plan? What are the documents and things that we look for to put in a master plan? And then eventually, what do we do and how do we implement this master plan and prepare the golf course for the future? I originally came from the Midwest. I grew up in a place called Hutchinson, Kansas. When I was old enough to get a job in high school, I worked at a place called Prairie Dunes Country Club. It was an old Perry Maxwell golf course design, the same guy that did Southern Hills in Tulsa. And I got to see at a young age just how great a golf course can fit into the environment and really learned a lot while I worked there. After that piqued my interest, I went to Kansas State University, where I majored in landscape architecture. And then when I graduated in 1988, I decided to move to South Florida because I knew a lot of the golf course architects had offices in that region. In 1989, I heard that Jack Nicklaus was hiring, and I interviewed for the position and was lucky enough to be hired. My first few years with Jack Nicklaus, I spent in their Southeast Asian office, where a group of 5 architects and myself did almost 30 projects throughout the Southeast Asian region. My job was to be the production manager, where I drew plans for all of those projects. And then in the early 1990s, I came back to the United States. When I came back to the States, Jack Nicklaus decided to place me at the Apache golf course at Desert Mountain in Scottsdale. That was my first introduction to the desert and was really an eye-opening experience for me. I just loved the way the green of the golf course contrasted with the amazing Sonoran Desert here in the Scottsdale area. While working on Apache, it was very interesting because there was another project going on. Scottsdale was a very dynamic area at the time. There were a lot of projects, a lot of golf course communities being built at that time, and Terravita happened to be one of those projects. So every couple of weeks, I would wander out and go exploring and look around the Terravita construction area and walk some of the holes. And so I got to see pretty early on what Terravita's vision was, the amazing views that you have there, really 360 degrees of the valley and of the mountains and of the boulders and all of those things that surround Terravita and the amazing terrain that you have at the golf club there. So I really got a nice introduction while I was doing the Apache project up at Desert Mountain. After a brief stint in California working on a project with Jack Nicklaus, and a co-design with G&CC. I came back to Arizona and was placed as the regional architect for Nicholas Design, basically covering Arizona, California, and Hawaii. While I was here, there was so much happening in this region. I was working on designing the Chiricahua Golf Course at Desert Mountain. I was working on and designing the Prospector and Lost Gold golf courses at Superstition Mountain, and also the Estrella Mountain Ranch, which is now called the Golf Club of Estrella, out in the West Valley. These projects were all happening concurrently in 1996. It was a very vibrant time in the valley again, and things were happening pretty quickly. After 3 years of doing that in 1999, I got a call just out of the blue from Tom Weiskopf, who had recently split from Jay Morrish. Tom was looking for an architect who could work with him in the future, moving forward with his company, Weiskopf Designs. So from 1999 to 2012, Tom and I worked together exclusively on several projects. Many in this region that you might know would be Seven Canyons in Sedona, the Silverleaf Golf Course, which is right here in the valley, and also other projects all throughout the mountain regions, the Snake River Sporting Club, the Yellowstone Club, Spanish Peaks. We also did many projects throughout the world, including Castiglione del Bosco in Tuscany, Italy. We worked on a project in China that was called the Dunes at Shenzhou Peninsula, which is just an amazing piece of property right on the coast. And over those years, we probably did just over 30 golf courses together until 2012, when I decided to start my own company, Phil Smith Design. Since 2012, I've had the opportunity to work on some amazing projects. I still do work with Jack Nicklaus. We did the Sherwood project in Thousand Oaks, California, the renovation there. We also worked on the renovation of Renegade Golf Club at Desert Mountain, and a few other projects around this southwest region of the United States. I also still work exclusively with Tom Weiskopf. We team up on projects. We teamed up most recently on a project here in the valley called Troon Country Club, major renovation there. We also have done, in 2014, we did the renovation of TPC Scottsdale. We're working on some par 3 courses up in Big Sky, Montana, as part of our other projects at Spanish Peaks and the Yellowstone Club. Phil Smith Design has also done major renovations here in the valley, the most recent being the Phoenician Golf Club, which I recently took 27 holes, reduced the golf course down to an 18-hole championship golf course, and then also, most recently, 2 weeks ago, opened a brand new golf course in Colorado Springs called the Golf Club at Flying Horse North. In my 31 years as a golf course architect, I have personally been involved with the design or renovation of 14 golf courses located north of Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. When I was approached in 2017 to interview for the architectural position at Terravita Country Club, I was really excited. As I said earlier, I got to see Terravita come out of the ground. I got to see the potential of the site and the amazing things that could happen here and have been happening at this dynamic, beautiful golf club. But as we know, time has its way with golf. However carefully we maintain the golf course, Mother Nature always wins out. Grasses that were originally planted can invade the fairways or greens or in the native areas. Things can grow up and trees can overhang. Bunkers can erode and change their shape, and the sand can be contaminated with leaves or from erosion from big storms. The mowing patterns can change, cart paths can crack, and even as architects, we design courses fully knowing that over time, the dynamics and playability and the conditions change. And at some point in their life, every club, like Terravita, is faced with the tough decision that they have to consider that the evolution of the course has taken it in a direction that eventually may have made it less interesting, or it needs updating in order to compete with the repositioning of the marketplace in which it resides. And that's why we prepare a master plan. The master plan, simply put, is just a roadmap. It's a checklist of all the components of the golf course that create sort of a visual plan of the areas to be improved and detailed descriptions and drawings to support all of those proposed upgrades. When looking at a master plan, the first thing that needs to be discussed are the things that we don't see on a golf course. The infrastructure, the irrigation system, the drainage systems. Luckily at Terravita, it seems like the drainage system works fairly well. I know that when you have big storms, you have many arroyos and many of the washes that cut through the site that were basically left alone, where the water flows directly through the golf course and not over it. It seems like most of the drainage systems that supported the grass hollows and bunkerings are still pretty viable. When it comes to irrigation though, now that Terravita is about 25 years old, and after speaking with Maddie and speaking with the people at Troon Golf, it seems like the irrigation system has reached its viable lifespan. I've been involved with several renovations in the last few years, and I do know that once it's been determined that the irrigation system needs to be replaced on a golf course, this is a really important milestone for any golf club, because now's your opportunity. It's your opportunity to look at all the different components of the golf course, because when the irrigation system has to be replaced, this means that more likely than not, all of the piping will need to be dug up, retrenched, and reinstalled. All of the wiring will need to be reinstalled. A new pump station will need to be installed. And so when you're doing this, this is your opportunity when the golf course is closed to do all of the other projects that may be on your wish list. This is when the master plan becomes an invaluable tool, because now we have a checklist of all the projects, of the items that you do see on the golf course: the tee complexes, the fairway areas, the bunkering, the greens complexes, the green surfaces, and how the greens and bunkering relate to each other. Let's start with the tee complexes. The tees at Terravita are basically island tees. Over the years, sometimes those island tees can have some thatch buildup, and you can have some awkward areas, or some of the DG around and surrounding the tees can wash away. So there can be some awkward steps and places when you try to access the tees. Also, the tees may have begun to crown a little bit, and I've noticed some of that on a few of the tees, where some of the tees aren't as level as they used to be, and so those would want to be leveled. And as we level the tees, we want to make sure that we create as much teeable ground as possible. The other items that I look at as an architect are just the different angles that the tees are hitting from, the different yardages, and so each one of those will be studied and placed on the master plan for future implementation. In looking at the fairways at Terravita, I think personally, my professional opinion is that the fairways are in great condition. They are really well designed. I don't have many suggestions for the fairway areas at Terravita. I believe that the golf course setup and the way that the fairways and the ball reacts when it hits the fairways is very good. So overall, I don't have any major concerns with the fairway areas at Terravita. Bunkers are what give a golf course its identity. The style, scale, the strategic characteristics, they're a direct reflection on the architecture and the time in which the course was originally designed. The original design at Terravita had 158 bunkers. That is more than 2.5 times the average on a normal golf course in today's world. Typically today we design around 60 bunkers on a golf course. The bunkers at Terravita, while visually stunning, do tend to change style throughout the golf course, and at some point 90 of those original 158 bunkers were removed, either through Greens Committee decisions or from the maintenance staff recommendations. As you've seen, some of those old bunker scars are hard to maintain. Some of them still look like old bunkers that just have grass growing in them, and some of them really don't have any direct influence on the strategy of the golf course. The overall location and strategic design impact of each bunker needs to be carefully studied to be sure each bunker has a specific purpose. So generally speaking, bunkers should reflect one or more of the following characteristics. They should either be a strategic bunker, which is placed to dictate or provide a specific risk or reward challenge to the golfer. They should be aiming bunkers. Aiming bunkers are placed out there so that it shows a golfer a specific aiming point or a point not to aim towards. Saving bunkers keep balls from bouncing into a worse position. And penal bunkers, which typically you've seen a few of these, are deep bunkers designed to penalize a poor shot. In any case, the visibility into the bunkers is extremely important. You need to make sure that the lead-ins are low so they're easy to walk in and out of, easy to be accessible so that once you walk in, you're easily going to be able to walk out and get back to the cart or get back to your next shot. Some bunkers have small amounts of sand that have built up in the front of these, and these need to be lowered. A lot of the bunkers have really high faces that wash out whenever there's a big rain event, so these steep slopes need to be looked at. Also, the bunker liners that were in the faces has started to show, and so we need to place new bunker lining systems in the bunkers so that when you have large monsoon events, then the washouts are much less frequent, and if there are washouts, there won't be any contamination. In any event, what I've done in the master plan is try to take an overall look at the bunkering of the golf course at Terravita to move a few bunkers, to reposition some bunkering, to try and create a nice ebb and flow with the strategy in the golf course, and to try to place the bunkers so that there's really good variety as you play through the golf course. I believe this plan has just under 60 bunkers. Each one will have its own place. It will be well thought out. It will be easy to walk in and out of. It will be very visible from the tees and very striking. I think we'll have a really nice bunker style here at Terravita that will create the biggest impact on anything else that we do on this golf course project. The greens at Terravita, I believe, were resurfaced about 8 years ago. They have mini verde Bermuda grass surfaces. As I looked at the greens, I noticed a few things that stood right out to me. Most of the greens are perched. In other words, they're elevated higher than their surroundings. There's a lot of pitch in these greens. Some of the pitches are so severe that many of the areas on the greens are not pinnable. So it reduces the amount of pinnable area and variety that you can have with your pin placements. The other thing I noticed was that, especially on the par threes, it's hard to see when your ball lands. There's some crowning in the front. There's pitching away from you, so they're not very receptive to certain shots. Also, many of the greens drain into bunkers. I think the one that comes to mind is the bunker left of number 18, where that entire left side of the green drains into the bunker, causing erosion almost on a daily basis after the irrigation system is finished. So those kind of things would want to be corrected. It would be my recommendation that we rebuild all the greens, that we resurface and recontour the greens so that we can soften a lot of those really high pitch areas and try to soften some of the pinnable areas. It's my hope that when the greens are finished, over 85% of the green surface will be pinnable on a daily basis. I don't want to change the style of the greens. I think they're terrific. What I want to do is soften the pitch. In other words, in areas where there's a lot of slope or a lot of really fast areas, I want to slow those down. I want to make much more pinnable areas, much more accessibility, and much more visibility into the green surfaces. Overall, a greens renovation to try to get the entire greens complex to become one unified landform. The way the greens relate to every bunker, the way the green relates to the landscape around it, the way the approach relates to the green is one of the most important projects that we can do in this master plan project. You know, golf is such a unique sport in that it doesn't involve a standard playing field or arena like a football field or a hockey rink. Instead, golf utilizes the landscape, and for that reason, it maintains this unique relationship with the environment. With that being said, it's imperative that the golf course be brought up to today's standards of environmental consciousness, water conservation, and all those kind of important vital components that this renovation process will help us achieve. Equally important to the conditioning of the golf course is the condition of the landscape. And as you've seen over years with the extra spray from the irrigation system hitting some of those desert areas and some of the overgrowth, I feel it's important that we continue this process of cleaning out the desert, creating playable areas just off the rough so that you can find your ball, so that you can play your ball and play those shots. Also important is clearing areas for visibility so that you can see off the tees. Many of your par fives utilize trees as part of the strategy, so we need to make sure that those trees are well maintained. We need to make sure that they're still part of the strategic value of those golf holes. So overall, landscape has made great progress over the last couple of years. Maddie and her team have done an amazing job of clearing some of those areas that I talked about earlier, making your visibility better, and just making the entire experience of the golf course and its surrounds and how that all interrelates much better. So where do we go from here? As a club, you have a lot of decisions to make in the next few months that are very important decisions. One of the things that helps make the decision easier is knowing that we do have the infrastructure, the irrigation system that needs to be replaced. So we know we have to close the golf course. So now how much of the other part of this do we want to bite off? That's really something that through this master plan, through the cost estimates, through the careful discussions that I've had with the Greens committees and the board and with we've come up with some different scenarios for you to consider. My recommendation would be if you could just rip off the Band-Aid. Now's the time. Let's try to get all of these components done all at the same time. This way you only have to close the golf course for one season. This season would be during your off season, which would basically be from April through August for construction, and then another 3 months to grow in. So typically a golf course project like this in the valley would reopen sometime after Thanksgiving, maybe around Christmas time, depending on the weather and how things have been going that year. Terravita looks like a great place to be a golf member. It's got an incredible address. It's one of the most beautiful places I've seen, even here in Scottsdale, with those views that you have 360 degrees around you. When I'm on the golf course, I don't feel the homes around me. I feel like I'm just sort of out in the middle of the desert playing a round of golf. I understand these are really difficult decisions for the club to make. I also understand that one person's perspective may differ from another, but I've done my best to take my experience, my knowledge from my 31 years in the business to give you what I think will be the best possible golf course we can possibly put out there at Terravita. I look forward to the opportunity to speak with you, to help you attain your vision at Terravita, and I am just so humbled and honored to be a part of this. I don't take this responsibility lightly, and I look forward to the time that we spend together in making Terravita one of the best golf courses, not only in North Scottsdale, but in all of Arizona.